Okay, chapter 19. We're still reading Yahweh's stuff, and we're now dealing with some history of the Jewish people. We're beyond the primeval history. So, let her rip.
Now the two angels came to Sodom in the evening as Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. And he said, Now behold, my lords, please turn aside into your servant's house, and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may rise early and go on your way. They said, however, No, but we shall spend the night in the square. Yet he urged them strongly, so they turned aside to him and entered his house. And he prepared a feast for them, and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. Before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, surrounded the house, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. And they called to Lot, and said to him, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, that we may have relations with them. But Lot went out to them at the doorway, and shut the door behind him, and said, Please, my brothers, do not act wickedly. Now behold, I have two daughters, who have not had relations with man. Please let me bring them out to you, and do to them whatever you like. Only do nothing to these men, inasmuch as they have come under the shelter of my roof. But they said, Stand aside. Furthermore, they said, This one came in as an alien, and already he is acting like a judge. Now we will treat you worse than them. So they pressed hard against Lot and came near to break the door. But the men reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. They struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, both shell and great, so that they wearied themselves trying to find the doorway. Then the two men said to Lot, Whom else have you here? A son-in-law, and your sons, and your daughters, and whomever you have in the city, bring them out of the place. For we are about to destroy this place, because their outcry has become so great before the Lord that the Lord has sent us to destroy it. Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were to marry his daughters, and said, Up, get out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he appeared to his sons-in-law to be jesting. When morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, Up, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city. But he hesitated. So the men seized his hand, and the hand of his wife, and the hands of his two daughters, for the compassion of the Lord was upon him. And they brought him out and put him outside the city. When they had brought them outside, one said, Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, and do not stay anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains, or you will be swept away. But Lot said to them, Oh no, my lords. Now, behold, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have magnified your loving kindness, which you have shown me by saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, for the disaster will overtake me, and I will die. Now behold, this town is near enough to flee to, and it is small. Please let me escape there. It is not small, that my life may be saved. He said to him, Behold, I grant you this request, also not to overthrow the town of which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I cannot do anything until you arrive there. Therefore the name of the town was called Zor. The sun had risen over the earth when Lot came to Zor. Then the Lord rained on
Okay,
Sodom.
let's pause there for a minute. We've covered a lot of material,
Oh, yeah.
and
I remember the first part for the lectionary just a couple weeks ago.
yeah,
Maybe not.
the my translation uses the word "flee for your life," and that's why I love that joke where the Sunday school they told Lot, take your wife and flee from the city, and she looked back and turned into a salt, and the little boy said, what happened to the flea? Did anyone find the beginning of this chapter a little uncomfortable?
Why would he offer his daughters? I mean, am I so naive? Would they not have wanted the girls, or should I even ask this question?
Oh no,
Abortion?
that's the question
Why
that I
did
think
he
we
do
have.
that?
There's some bad things in Genesis.
You know, this is why when you teach Sunday school, you just can't start reading scripture, because, you know, little girls in a Sunday school class are going to hear that and go, hey, what the heck?
Yeah, that's just horrible. We had daughters.
No,
Anyway.
that's what I had, and
Grandmas would get them
Yeah,
too.
Grandma would do it.
you know, here
This grandma would.
they're saying, you know, well, hold on, leave those guys alone. I got a couple daughters in there. You think, what's wrong? And then he says, well, I got a son-in-law, and why? How did these guys know, the people who were surrounding the house, know that these two angels or two men were there in the house? And you know, why did they want to destroy them? You know, but they said, stand back. And they said, this fellow came to sojourn, and he would play the judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. Then they pressed hard against the man Lot and drew near to break the door. But the men put forth their hands and brought Lot into the house to them and shut the door. And they struck with blindness the men who were at the door of the house. I mean, they're forcing their ways in. I don't think there's an easy answer to that, although, you know, you just have to realize that not everything that we read in Scripture is something that we think is appropriate. I thought, as this chapter began, here you have, you know, Lot saying to these guys, spend the night at my house. And they said, no, we'll just sleep in the square. No, spend the night in my house. And he made them a feast. Now, number one, there isn't a Jew who believes Lot actually made them a feast. Lot said to his wife, fix the food.
Oh, I gotcha.
And so they made a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate it. This is really the first mention, I think, of unleavened bread.
Oh,
Oh,
So, you know, and
they're angels, right?
yes,
So angels can eat.
yeah, or angel of the Lord. you know,
These angels.
they may not have had wings, but
Yeah,
remember we ran across that earlier.
human manifestation of the.
Yes, you know, that we all could be in some way angels of the Lord if we're bringing a message.
Oh,
I mean, we're a messenger. Because angels of the Lord also translates messenger.
I thought they were real angels, like taking on man.
Taking on human form. So I don't think they had wings.
But without wings.
So there, but before they lay down, the men of the city, men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people to the last man surrounded the house, and they called Lot. So, you know, how did they know? So what we have is the Yahwist telling a story by omitting some of the practical details, but is still giving it this story his point of view.
I don't understand why Lot stayed there. Or why did he make his house in that deprived area?
Yeah, because he wasn't in that area in chapter 19 or 18. Remember, the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre, and he said, I'm going to destroy Sodom. And Lot negotiates with him.
Lot? Or
Just a few verses down.
23.
So
No, that was
it's Abraham. Yeah,
Abraham.
you know, Abraham. Now Lot is his nephew. So, you know, Abram has talked the Lord out of destroying it.
Yeah.
And but now, go ahead.
Yes, I can see it's showing the complete evil. Like they've completely turned themselves over to evil.
Mm-hmm.
So I can relate to that because people will do that still if they stop it. Yes.
Yes.
So it's a good example of complete evil.
Yeah, and there's a thin line between good and evil that can easily be crossed for some people. You mentioned your husband. If somebody tried to do something to one of his daughters, he would go after them.
Yeah.
He's a mild-mannered man. I mean, he just seems kind of, you know, when I've met him,
Yeah.
he's a laid-back kind of guy. But there's a very thin line. You touch one of his daughters, he can convert very quickly. So, but anyway, Abraham has talked God into not destroying it. Now in chapter 19, these two messengers or angels come to Sodom and they say, we're going to destroy it. The Lord's going to destroy it. God had a change of heart. But that to send your children out. I mean, it's not the same. You know, remember when Father was going to make a sacrifice, and he took his son up the mountain, and the little boy's saying, "Where's the ram?" And Dad says, Lord will provide. And when they're all set to go, they find that God knows he was willing to make that kind of sacrifice. I'll now give him the ram so he doesn't have to kill his son. That's a hard story. And, you know, this, when he says, hey, I got a couple good-looking daughters, you know, I could send them out. Come on. Lot.
So they have pride flags in this community?
I don't know.
Oh my Lord!
I mean, you kind of look around at our world today and you
Yeah.
kind of wonder how far are we from that.
Then
Yeah.
when morning dawns, the angels urge Lot, saying, "Get out of town. Take your family and go to Zoar," which translates also little. It must have been a small community.
Back up just a second. You know, when Abraham was talking to the Lord and kind of like jewed him down from, in the very last, he said, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." Then the Lord had finished speaking with Abram and he left. Abram returned home. It doesn't say that there were 10 righteous men. It just said that for the sake of 10,
Yeah.
would you not destroy it? Well, apparently there aren't anyone.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, this is the same negotiation that we hear from Jonah. When the Lord's going to wipe out the city. There's several places in Scripture where people negotiate with the Lord.
Yeah.
Just like we do all the time.
If you get me through this,
I'll
tithe and I'll be in church every Sunday.
Yeah, I'm thinking, there I am laying on the table with these metal paddles on my chest and my back, and they're going to knock me out, and they're going to run several volts through my body, and I'm thinking, Lord, I'm sorry. It's just, I guess you could say that's human nature.
Yeah.
I mean, when we get sick, or when there's a close friend or relative who may be in the midst of dying, we negotiate. Or Burt Reynolds when he's swimming out in the ocean and the doctor says, "No, you're not dying. That was the wrong test result." And he's negotiating to get back. That's I guess, human nature. Okay, let's read on. We're at 24.
Okay. I'm going to finish 23 if that's okay.
Okay, yes.
The sun had risen over the earth, and when Lot came to Zoar, the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven, and he overthrew those cities, and all the valley, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. But his wife from behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Now Abram arose early in the morning and went to the place where he had stood before the Lord. And he looked down towards Sodom and Gomorrah, and towards all the land of the valley, and he saw, and behold, the smoke of the land ascended like the smoke of a furnace. Thus it came about, when God destroyed the cities of the valley, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot lived.
Okay, I'm just going to pause there for just a minute, because we've got this verse 29 is a repeat of what we've already read. And one of the biblical scholars, Gerhard von Rad, says that verse 29 is priestly writing and not Yahweh's. So in the midst of this Yahweh story, the priestly author has inserted this one verse that kind of rehashes, again, remember Abraham. So we're talking about Lot, but all of a sudden now God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow. And when he overthrew the cities in which Lot dwelt. So
what happened to those men who had come to stay overnight with him? We don't. I guess. I mean, yeah.
That's a
So
good question.
Yeah.
Maybe they just disappeared. Yeah, poof.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
don't know.
So they didn't
it's one of those many unresolved questions that we have in Scripture. Because those guys were, if they were not angels but messengers of the Lord, certainly God's not going to leave them there to fry. And you know, and God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking, how about the auto parts store
Yeah.
down on South Main?
Talk about
That
we know what
was a
black
miracle.
smoke looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have to evacuate?
No.
You were just north
far
of the.
enough. No.
Um,
But I was at the dollar store between 9 and 10. I didn't hear a thing or know anything was happening. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what time the explosion was.
well, I
He also
Heard
had
about
two
the
classic
hand
cars sitting in the back there that burned.
oh really?
Yeah,
What'd you say?
Darren Clifford. That's his name, the owner.
He had a couple of classic cars.
Oh.
Burned up, is what he said.
In the part away from the garage there.
Oh.
The thing that I thought was amazing that when I heard on the news that the fire department was there,
Yeah.
and there were 6 firefighters who had gone in the building, and they left just seconds before the building
What happened was
exploded.
that these firemen that walked in had detectors on them,
Oh.
and they went off. And when they went off, they said, "We've got to get out of here now." And they did, and they just got out and boom.
Well, Darren and a customer were right with him, so
Yeah,
they all had to get out of there at
Yeah.
that time.
Well, you know, it just,
Fortunately, they did.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, now, see, I'm inclined to say that sounds like an act of God. Now, somebody would say, nah, they were just lucky. Well, that's okay.
You know,
Believe whatever you want.
Yeah.
I mean, my faith says to me that God's hand is in something like that.
well, and
I've had it happen to me
Yeah,
at least 2 times that I'm aware of, and it can't be anything other. There's just no other explanation for it.
yeah, yeah.
And the
Police
feeling
officer.
is different than any other I have ever had. Both times that this happened to me. And so you will never talk me out of that one.
Yeah, you know, police officers are constantly in the line of fire, you know, literally, and you know sometimes they move just the right way. I'm thinking the president when he was campaigning, and the assassin shot, and just as the assassin shot, Trump had turned to look at a chart, and so the bullet missed his head and got his ear.
It has to be God.
And you could see the trace of the bullet
Yeah,
on the picture. You could actually
yeah. So, you know, you have to.
going through right past it. As if had he not have moved like he did, it would have hit him in the head.
Yeah.
I didn't hear him.
The,
Bent over.
the gas pipe that supposedly blew, they sent it off and they said it'd take 12 to 24 months to do all the testing on that pipe. Now, can you imagine your business going up in smoke and you're going to have to wait for the results from that?
Well, I'm wondering what it is with the city of Hutchinson and gas. Remember the party store on Main Street?
well, there
Well, that was
was
a different situation.
Graver Furniture got
Well, that was gas coming up from
Coming up
got
out of the
escaped
well.
from us.
Yeah,
This was just a pipe that
right.
had probably been there 800 years. Who knows?
But gas explosions, and I don't hear them in other cities. They just seem to be
there
here.
has been several here in.
Yeah,
There's a
So-
I was in a
killed in their home.
YMCA in Venice, Florida, when that gas leak came from the gas tanks out west. And I just picked up at Hutchinson, Kansas, had lost one building already. And I was surprised because I thought, well, I didn't hear him right. So I called home and bingo,
Yeah.
That was a different thing, like Bob said. It was
Yeah.
underground.
But I know the college had a vent pipe installed in one of the parking lots
Well, there were several.
when they were going around town.
They were flaring them for a while.
Yeah, venting them. And I thought, so I remember I was living in Kingman, and I was on my way in, and I got a call from my supervisor who said, are you coming in? I said, yeah. She said, turn around and go home. You can't be on campus because we have a little problem. She said, have you watched the news? And I said, no, I don't like to get depressed when I start. Work alone is depressing. I don't need more. So, I got a day off. Now, that reminds me, we were talking about this is so crazy. We were talking about this a long time ago, like 3 weeks ago. The sons of Abraham,
Yeah.
and he had the one son, Ishmael, and we were questioning where did he go, what. So I did a little research. His mother was Egyptian. She was the maid, but she was from Egypt. And so he was part Egyptian. And and I think it may have been Kathy who said he's considered in some ways to be the father of the Arabs. That the other boys had their own cities, and he was kind of the Arab in the group. And remember in these old movies, they would show the caravans going across from Egypt to somewhere else. There are some people who believe that was his people, the people who were in those caravans. And, they'd pitch tents there in the desert and roll out carpets and all of that. So I just thought I'd share that with you since I looked it up. But I was kind of surprised because I remember those movies that would show the caravans, with the camels going across it. Well, Ishmael, that was, he was nomadic. He didn't have a spot. He had a caravan, but it went from Egypt probably over to China. And doing trade. So I just found that kind of fascinating. So if nothing else, I do read once in a while.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's at least finish this chapter.
Okay.
Verse 30.
Lot went from Zoar and stayed in the mountains, and his 2 daughters with him. For he was afraid to stay in Zoar, and he stayed in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. Then the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old, and there is not a man on earth to come in to us after the manner of the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and let us lie with him, that we may preserve our family through our father. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and stayed and lay with her father. And he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. On the following day, the firstborn said to the younger, behold, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine tonight. Also, then you go in and lie with him. That way we may preserve our family through our father. So they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him. And he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot were with child by their father. The firstborn boy's son, and called his name Moab, and he is the father of the Moabites to this day. As for the younger, she also born a son, and called his name Ben-Ami. Ben-Ami. He is the father of the sons of Amnon to this day.
Okay.
So this will be in the lectionary next week.
You get a sermon on the
On Sodom.
On
sins
incest. We'll cover this Sunday. We're going to cover incest.
the sins of sex.
Now, you read that and you think, what in the...
Almost
Here-
why is it in the Bible?
Hmm?
Almost why is it in the Bible? I mean, you have to really carry things over.
Well, here he's gonna prostitute these girls to get the guys off the house, and so now they're saying,
Yeah.
let's sleep with Dad.
It just almost makes you want to bone it.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Well, it's interesting because they had to get him drunk.
Yeah.
He would not do that. They're not. They're trying to make Lot seem innocent of this, and
They were real sluts.
So is this kind of giving us some,
thank you, Dennis. I didn't want to say it, but
so is this kind of giving us some history of the lineage of where their sons and who they were ancestors for?
exactly
Those peoples?
the Moabites and the Amorites. They were not.
Outside of society.
They were outside. That.
They constantly fought Israel.
Yes. And so what's happening is the Ahwist is saying, you're wondering, about those Moabites? They're a bunch of illegitimate people. And the Amorites, they're right there with them. So, I mean, this is...
Laying the groundwork for that.
Yeah. It's how do you describe it or how do you explain it? You say, well, they were offspring through incest. And, you're right, Dennis. You wonder why some of the stuff is in the Bible.
Yeah.
Well, we don't read all of it. We avoid that. I mean, that will never be in the lectionary.
So that's why we have good Bible studies, to let us know that we shouldn't let our children, our grandchildren, whatever, just go out and flitty-flotty around,
Well,
They did, but they got punished for it.
who's the Gideons?
Yeah.
They pass out Bibles,
Yeah.
and
Does it have Genesis in it?
no, it doesn't. There's just a New Testament.
Are they redacted versions?
Yeah, but you can see why when missionaries went to some of the foreign countries and they passed out Bibles, you can see why some of those people in Tahiti are going, what the hell? Not a good thing.
Yeah.
So, but again, the Bible is not just about good people.
Yeah.
It's about all kinds of people.
It also shows how God uses bad for good, because it said here in the footnote, Ruth, the great-grandmother of David and the ancestor of Jesus, was from Moab.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I heard it. But I didn't mention that.
God uses bad for good.
Yeah, he can turn bad into good. I often wonder, we have Moab in this country, in Utah. So it's a beautiful little city. But I often wondered why some of these cities pick the names that they pick.
Yeah.
Although I don't know anybody in any city in town that's called, Gomorrah or Sodom.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Although, isn't there a Sodom? No, it's Sodom.
Solomon,
Solomon.
interstate.
So now the next verse, from there Abraham journeyed towards the territory of the Negev and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur. At that point, we've now left the story of Lot.
Good.
We're done with that. And the Yah is bringing us back to Abraham. And chapter 20 and the first part of chapter 21 are from the priestly writings. And then we'll get into some of the Elohist writings, beginning at verse 8 in chapter 21. So let's see if we can get through 20.
Now Abraham journeyed from there toward the land of the Negev and settled between Kadesh and Shur. Then he sojourned into Ger. Abraham said of Sarah, his wife, "She is my sister." So Abimelech, king of Ger, sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream of the night and said to him, "Behold, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is married." Now Abimelech had not came near her, and he said, "Lord, will you slay a nation even though blameless? Did he not himself say to me, 'She is my sister'?" And she herself said, "He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands, I have done this." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know that in the integrity of your heart you have done this, and I also kept you from sinning against me. Therefore I did not let you touch her. Now therefore restore the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, you and all who are yours." So Abimelech arose early in the morning and called all his servants and told all these things in their hearing, and the men were greatly frightened. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? And how have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? You have done to me things that ought not to be done." And Abimelech said to Abraham, "What have you encountered that you have done this thing?" Abraham said, "Because I thought surely there is no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she actually is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife." And it came about, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, "This is the kindness which you will show to me everywhere we go. Say of me, 'He is my brother.'" Emily then took sheep and oxen, and male and female servants, and gave them to Abraham, and restored his wife Sarah to him.
I'm going to stop you there.
Okay.
It's Abimelech, the name, Abimelech. But here we have another interesting family relationship. Abraham shows up with Sarah, and he introduces her as his sister. She says, he's my brother. And so the king takes her, but he didn't sleep with her.
Yeah. Did he know why he didn't? Or did the Lord just intervene, or why?
I don't know. It could well have been his Viagra prescription hadn't showed up.
Oh, my.
But
He had a whole flock of wives at the time.
yeah, he had more than one wife. But you hear these stories. We've just heard about Lot's daughter. Now we're hearing about Abraham. Oh, she's not my wife. She's my sister. What's that scene from the Jack Nicholson movie about Chinatown, where he's smacking around she's my sister, she's my daughter, she's my sister, she's my daughter. Same kind of thing that we have with the last chapter, that this actress, or the role she's playing, she has a daughter. But it's also her sister because her father impregnated her. So now here we have...
Don't we see this a lot with people that get divorced and remarry, and the kids don't have no clue who their parents are, and are you my father? Well, I don't know. I could be, I guess.
Yeah. Or the...
What did he say?
What's it called? The Ancestry.com.
Oh. People are finding out they have relatives they didn't know about.
They may have a brother or a sister.
Yeah.
I remember we were at my granddaughter's graduation dinner, and Christina, my daughter, said that, she said, I did ancestry. And she said, and Dad, you came back as my father. And her mother said, well, hell, I could have told you that. But I have a sister-in-law who found out that she has a half-brother and has made connections with him. But, there are some people that found out they're not related to anybody that they thought was mom and dad. So, these, sometimes less information is better than...
Oh, yeah.
Too much information is a truism in our society.
Yeah, and so, but here...
This verse where in 6 it says, yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. That's pretty neat that God can do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Therefore, I did not let you touch her.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. It's like the intervention from when you and the guys at the steps.
Yeah.
God does intervene.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That, that God can keep you from doing something bad.
Yeah.
It's... I had... one of my seminary professors used to say, you've got to make decisions if you're going to sin before you're at the point of sinning. He said, nobody takes off their clothes and gets in the back seat of the car with their girlfriend and then tries to decide whether they're going to do it or not. When you're at that point, the decision was already made. So, but, it really is interesting that, here we see the power of God. And and he lets this guy restore to Abraham. Abimelech called Abraham and said, what have you done to us? And how have I sinned against you? And how have I sinned against you that you have brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? So that would lead me to believe that Abimelech had some religious beliefs.
Yeah, he must have, to recognize it was God.
Yeah. See, because God has only talked
Sin.
to Abraham that we know of. Somehow, God got through to Abimelech and said, "Don't do it.
Yeah,
You'll be sorry."
that's amazing.
Well, I thought we'd get through the whole chapter, but we're not going to be able to do that. So we'll pick up because I think that's an
15
interesting.
is where we got it.
Yeah.
We'll start at.
I think
Had
it's
some-
an interesting story with what's happening there.
Where are we cutting off here? What's
15,
Verse 15, chapter.
chapter 20, chapter 20, verse 15.
Okay. All right. We'll see everybody next week.
Thank you.